Good evening, and if you're just tuning in, welcome and Happy New Year. This Monday, January the 3rd, 2022. You are listening to the Angel Rock on United Public Radio Network. And if you've never been here before, welcome. I'm your host, Lorilei Potvin. We are streaming to you live out of New Orleans, Louisiana, but we are both of us on camera here are from Canada. I'm a Canadian psychic medium. I'm also a crystal Reiki energy healer, Akashic Records practitioner, spiritual teacher and mentor, and also a registered nurse. And with my show, people that are returning, by the way, I want to give you a huge shout out. We have a lot of people that tune in regularly, and we really appreciate your support. Thank you so much. But for those of you, maybe it's your first time here, I cover all aspects, I say, of the supernatural, anything from UFOs to aliens to the actual paranormal. But I also cover things like how to access your spiritual gifts, connect with your intuition, the power of positivity, manifestation, and things like that. And tonight I have my partner in crime joining me for the first hour. He's going to hang around for the second. But I have the Dell with me of the Delicious Recipe here on Thursday nights. Welcome, Dell.
Hello, and thank you for having me here. Yeah, you woke me up, and I'm on the show.
And he's on the show. And I do want to tell you guys, I want to give a huge shout out. He will be here in the next hour, Aage Nost. He's a good friend of mine. He is a podcaster himself with the lovely Nori Love with Broadcast Team Alpha. And he will be on tonight. We always have a great show when Augie's on here too, as well as Adele. So I was thinking about this. You and I did an impromptu podcast on New Year's Day. And before I go any further, I want to warn you guys, if you're watching on Facebook, we can't see the comments unless you're on United Public Radio Network's Facebook page. So we're not ignoring you purposely. So please come on over and join us in the UFO Paranormal Radio channel on YouTube, and we will be able to see your comments because we like to include what you say and make you part of the discussion. So back to what I was saying, we did an impromptu New Year's Day stream because obviously we live in the same house. We had a heck of a lot of audio issues, not sure if it's what we discussed or not. And we also did the delicious recipe together last Thursday. But I was thinking about this, and there were some things you wanted to talk about, and things like the Jesse Smollett case and the Ghislaine Maxwell case. Is there anything you wanted to add to that, Doc? Because we didn't really touch on that last Thursday or on January 1st.
Well, it just seems that it was. Well, yeah, we talked a lot about the current situation of the climate of health in around the world and stuff like that.
Yes.
But those two cases, which were big cases, like the Smollett case, happened just before the outbreak of the pandemic, and then it sort of really sort of faded away. There was nothing done for almost like 2.5 years or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the Ghislaine Maxwell case with the Jeffrey Epstein thing, there was a lot of talk that just dragged on forever. That it was really, really made quiet about. It wasn't really covered that much into the news media.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just sort of popped up again just around Omicron again.
Mm-hmm.
And now it always seems to be is that they say this a lot of times with media and government a focus, and that when they're focused in so hardly on one thing, what they're focused in right now is this Omicron, which is basically the cold, but they're making it sound like it's the next Black
Death
Plague,
sentence. Yep.
right? That's gonna just wipe everybody out and stuff like that, and it's just unbelievable the stuff that's being said about it there, but nothing's being really talked about this. They both of them were charged on 5 out of 6 cases or counts that they were charged on. So they're both charged 6 times for different parts.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's 5 out of 6, but both things are that their sentencing is going to go on till next or this year now,
Mm-hmm.
sometime.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a proposed part with the Ghislaine Maxwell one is that she looks up to facing maybe 65 years in jail if she gets I guess the medium to maximum part of her sentence there, but they're waiting on there because the things that were discussed in there and all the files that are there could be implicating uh, major celebrities, major heads of
I heard they
business.
were put under lock and key again, though, right after the trial. Like they were locked back
Right,
up again,
but I
sealed.
guess the part is that they're talking about, and I don't really have. appreciate this one person there, but that Nancy Grace, but she had said that after hopefully that the files are looked at more seriously now,
Mhm.
and the people that were involved in it, everybody that's
Because the
involved
Black
in
Book
this.
was released, you can find it on the internet.
Yep.
So whether they're sealed again or not,
Hmm.
the one thing I did want to add quickly that I didn't get a chance to say to you before the show is there was something going across the bottom with the ticker tape, and it looks like Prince Andrew may settle with this young girl who kind of started the whole ball rolling with this whole thing with the Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, and I thought, isn't that interesting?
Well,
Because she was adamant she was going to go to court.
that's what they always say about this whole thing, like the magic, the prestige, or
Hmm.
the magic trick, right? Let's see what this hand is doing here, but don't notice what we're doing over here behind
Yeah,
you. And it's the way that media, and we've, if you haven't noticed, or maybe you have, or maybe you don't really care, is that this mainstream media, which these news stations, which are called entertainment stations now, they no
programming.
longer they no longer give both sides of the news to come up with informing the public. They just have their one little narrative, and what they focus on and what they don't focus on, you have to be looking at that. And we said this before when we were talking about it last week, is that if you really want to find out what's going on in your country, is to go watch foreign news that talks
Absolutely.
about your country,
Hmm.
because they don't have any real biasy, I guess you could
Or
say, in there.
qualms about reporting what's going on in another country because it doesn't affect them or the citizens that are there. So,
Hmm.
right. And it's almost like you said, the prestige. Don't notice what this hand's doing. Well, what's going on behind my back? So we don't have to talk about our news. We'll talk about other people's news, right?
Yep, that part there, and like it's just you'll get a different outlook or a different understanding about maybe what's going on there, because just listening to people on other social platforms and out in the public and that, and listening to what they're saying and what they're parroting from news media is just unbelievable. I just don't understand where they're getting their facts from. Or I do understand where they're getting their facts from, but
Brought to
they're
you
getting
by Pfizer. Every newscast brought to
yeah, well,
you by
that part
Pfizer.
that part too, but then they're also getting it from social media groups and stuff like that that are parroting that same news media, and they're going, well, hey, I'm going to trust my buddy because of whatever they said. They're informed, right? And
Hmm.
we say this, both of us here too, is that you have to research incredibly. You don't really have to do it really, really in depth, but you should be looking at a very wide spectrum of information there to form your opinion. And I think that's which is just so important. I think so many people don't do it nowadays, because I think what it is that we're in this Russia culture that you just want to get. This is the quickest. I'll just trust this one because it's
I've
been
always
agreed
trusted
upon.
it, and
Yeah.
everybody else listens to it, so I'm
Mm.
going to do it too. And that's the issue because with the Ghislaine Maxwell trial and the Jussie Smollett, that seemed to take forever before it was tried. But both of them, there was this big rush to get it done before the end of the year. Now,
Hmm.
why? That's the main thing. Why? Why wait for the sentencing? That was the other part. Now, from what I was with my research, it was because supposedly this big case with Prince Andrew, he was going to have to go through, and you'd already said he wouldn't go to trial. We knew that because of who he was. Well, I'm trying to remember what her name is. She's blonde. It's not Victoria. I forget what her name is. Virginia, maybe. She was a young girl that was underage, and he was trying to build his whole case. From what I understand, I was listening to something today, a podcast about Prince Andrew saying he has a medical condition that doesn't allow him to sweat. And because that was part of her testimony, how sweaty he was.
Hmm.
And there's pictures all over the internet of Prince Andrew, like just you can definitely tell he's sweating. And what kind of shut down his defense, I guess, is this woman who, like, she started the whole ball rolling with this, as far as I'm concerned. Her lawyers asked for medical documentation to prove that Prince Andrew supposedly has this medical condition that he can't sweat. And if you've ever watched the interview that Prince Andrew did, Oh my Lord, I think probably everybody in the palace was probably fired because that was the biggest PR disaster I have ever seen in my life. And he must have known the questions before he was interviewed.
Hmm.
So it was just crazy, crazy, crazy. So, and then, like you said about this, I've been talking to a few people. I just ran out and got a few things in between doing the show and after you had gotten home from work, and just a few neighbors and stuff. Well, we live in Ontario, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's been this massive announcement that um, they're going to be going to a modified level 2 lockdown here starting tomorrow night after midnight. And and they've even admitted on TV that this is not serious. This is not serious. People maybe are in hospital for a day or two, but they don't want to overrun the system. And everybody's coming down with this, supposedly. Well,
Right, we're
first of
going to a stage 2 lockdown again.
Yeah, he said modified. But the thing I was going to say was, first of all, the reason why you're worried about your healthcare system being overrun is because how many people lost their jobs. And the other part is that, and I had this conversation with one of my neighbors, and I said, and I've been saying this since day one, having worked in the healthcare field, where the hell did the flu go? Why has the flu all of a sudden disappeared? And love the person I was having this conversation with, and she said, "Well, maybe this is just a modified flu." And I said, "Give your head a shake." I said, "The flu has been around for hundreds of years. It doesn't just disappear." I also said to her, I agree that there was something with CV-19. I'm not saying it didn't exist. But what I'm saying is, this was all gloom and doom. And I've always felt sorry for people that don't have a lot of medical knowledge because you're seeing this on the news and it sounds so serious and so scary. And it's like, I can see people just don't know where to go for information. What do you think, Del?
Yep, that's the thing there. And what was it? That Dr. John something, I can't remember what his name is. Uh,
Martin.
that out of the UK, I
Yeah.
believe. And he goes through what the symptoms are. The symptoms are exactly what the common cold is.
Hmm.
And now there's a lot of other things that are going on. I've talked about many times about this Agenda 2030 in a way to move different things forward. And that's why I'm saying about these magic tricks, right? Focusing over here while we're pushing other little agenda stuff over here, right? To get this Agenda 2030 moved forward. And there's been actually a lot of people actually talking about this with this Great Reset talk, Agenda 2030 and stuff like that, of passing through things and pushing stuff. And we've used the little phrase before of boiling the frog slowly. And the frog doesn't know what's going on until after it's whatever, that it's finito. But it's just amazing that these things are happening. Like even with this Ghislaine Maxwell stuff and the people that were mentioned in that black book, there's talks right now with possibly Hillary Clinton running again in 2024. Well, the Clinton Foundation has been found with the pay to play stuff and a lot of uh, backdoor dealings and illegal stuff that was there. And they were also mentioned in this black book as well. So, this is why I'm wondering why they're keeping it sort of almost sort of hush hush or on the down low about going further before the sentencing, is whether or not they're going to reveal more people that were involved doing these nefarious things with these young girls and young kids and boys.
A lot of the names were redacted. I'm going to read a few comments of Shady D that's here. We also have a Bird Marcellia over on, I believe, YouTube. I'm not quite sure. It says VOHFYI. I'm not quite sure. I think they usually post that. I'm not, must be something they use. I'm not sure about. Welcome. You're welcome to stay if you want to join the conversation. Shady D says, evening. She says, that explains the sweaty shirts with Prince Andrew. So it's a royal version of Let's Go Brandon. And then she added, I know 3 people that just had this variant. They got over it after 4 days because it was a common cold. Now, I know someone whose kidneys are failing because he was afraid and got his jabs last week. And I agree with you. Now, I haven't even had a chance to talk to Dell about this, but there's a funeral director out of the UK. I would think his name is John Mooney. And he's been in the funeral business for at least 15, 20 years. And he's been interviewed quite a bit on Stu Peters' show. And he's been talking about what he's been seeing trending with deaths and what's coming in, what the cause of death is. Um, he said in over 15 years, I believe, of working in the funeral industry, he has never seen so many people pass away because of a blood clot. That was, or sudden deaths that are supposedly unexplained. But he has an interesting theory. And you know what? I tend to think he might have something with this. And what he's talking about is, say you've got 100 people that go for the jab, 15 of those people are going to actually get the jab, 85 are going to get the placebo. So you've got a whole cheering section of 85%, 85 people going out there saying, it's wonderful, it's great, I got it, I had no problems, I just had a little bit of a sore arm. And
Oh,
then
the
I know
magic
Stu,
trick.
yeah, well then so you've got
Mhm.
all these cheerleaders going, yeah, it's great, I don't know why you won't get it. And then, the people that do have something happen on varying degrees, he said, and I think I have to agree with him from some of the research I've seen, there's varying degrees of what people are getting in different shots. So you've got, say, 15 people that have serious side effects, and they're being silenced, and they are. If you look beyond the mainstream media and everywhere else, you will see these people. There are hundreds upon thousands of people in Facebook groups, on Telegram, all over the place. There's a new podcast that started, The Victim's Voice, to hear what people are talking about. Senator Ron Johnson has held in the U.S. Symposiums to give the victims a voice to be able to speak. But the
Mhm.
point that this John Mooney, the funeral director, brought that I thought was really important, he said, so now they're talking about having to get boosters every 3 to 4 months. He said, so you keep basically playing the lottery. If this is the way things are going, are you really going to count yourself that lucky for the next 3 to 5 years, is what they're talking about. I
Mhm.
also know of people too who have gotten a phone call here in Ontario that have been called back to their health unit saying they only got a saline shot by accident. And being a registered nurse, in the beginning I was like, what the heck? Like, how did you give a saline shot by accident? That doesn't happen. Now knowing what I'm seeing, hearing, and researching, it makes a lot of sense. What's your thoughts on that?
Hmm. I wonder if that's part of this part when they were trying to rush out all these vaccines or these medical
Jabs.
devices,
Hmm.
jabs,
Hmm.
that they were giving out there. Is that they weren't able to produce enough, so they just produced 15% or whatever, 100%, but it was actually 15% of that, and just doled them all out, all the way out there, and just mixed those ones in there so they could stick as many people as they could. Right?
Hmm.
This wouldn't go. Big companies and big pharma makes a lot of money, billions and billions of dollars, and you just figure that they produced all this stuff, and then you wonder why only certain amount of people. That could be actually an interesting thing, but you wouldn't know that unless you tested everybody
Hmm.
to see if they had gotten that medical instrument jab put into them. And here's another part of this little part of this conspiracy, and this was actually sort of brought up during the I was listening to that Joe Rogan podcast, the one with that doctor.
Dr. Robert Malone?
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
and the part that he brought up on there, like I'm only about three-quarters of the way through it though, is that with these people that got the jab, and he was talking about the aspirating of the needle, okay,
Hmm.
where you go and you put it in there and you draw back a little bit to see if there's
I'm
any
still
blood.
here, by the way, if I
Yeah,
disappear for a second, but go ahead. Hmm.
yeah, and if you aspirate the needle, you draw back to make sure if there's no blood going into the
Yes,
needle, and then you
that's the
put it back
proper
in
way.
there. But every one of all these leaders and big, uh, I guess you would say, stars and that were out there that were going up onto camera and
Hmm.
getting this shot. All they were getting was just a poof right in there. There was no drawback or nothing. They were just automatically just stuck right in their arm and shot. Hey, look at this! I got the shot. Everybody
Hmm.
else can get it too. And uh, if there's one site I have to go and look it up again there,
I have
but
something to add to this.
there was like a lot of these ones there that were showing that they just boom stuck in injected, but there was no
Hmm.
proper whatever you would say
That
there
is the
injection
proper
being done.
protocol. Yes, to drop whatever you are, flick where you see us nurses flicking it, pulling back, getting rid of the extra air. Whenever, and I've always been taught this, is when you do an injection, regardless of whether it's intramuscular or what have you, you pull back to make sure that you're not in a blood vessel and then you
Right.
inject. But what I was going to say, and it is Kamala Harris that I saw this. She had somebody in a white lab coat injecting her. I think it was her first injection. And I was watching this person going, what the heck are they doing? It looked like they had given her the shot, taken the needle, and they looked like they were kind of bending it on the arm of the chair, and somebody blew it up. It was a rubber needle, or the same thing. And I've seen many of these syringes out there. Some of them have had nothing in there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like I say that there's been, and this sounds, that's what I forgot to add. I prefer the name of truth seeking versus conspiracy theory,
Mm-hmm.
but these are things that are going on. And I have to say that, are you supposed to pinch the muscle? No, no, not for an intramuscular injection. No. um, what you do is there's markers that you use on people's anatomy, depending on where you give it, whether it's in the muscle in the arm, it can be given in the fattier tissue in the upper, I guess, buttock, if you will. You can give it in the leg for an intramuscular, but no, you don't pinch it. For a subcutaneous injection, such as insulin, you can, especially if somebody doesn't have a lot of fatty tissue. But no, you wouldn't pinch. You wouldn't pinch a muscle. Now, the other thing is certain medications can be toxic because some of it will leak out. So, another technique that you might use with an intramuscular injection is called the Z-track injection. I know if we've ever injected iron or things like that, and it's a certain way that you give it by moving the flesh over a bit. You don't pinch it, you just sort of move it, inject, and then move the flesh back so that it doesn't have any leak through into the extra tissues. So, but no, no pinching. And I don't know if I agree with Dr. John Martin. Of course, I'm not a doctor, but yes, proper protocol is to withdraw on the syringe. But part of his theory is why some people he feels may have had reactions is they get this immediate metallic taste in their mouth. And he says that's a sign of being injected into the, the blood, the blood circulation, if you will, because there's not major vessels, close to the skin. It's usually capillaries and things like that. And he feels that that may be a contributing factor to reactions. I can't agree with that because, that's not going to be a reason for why people are having, say, anaphylactic reactions or major allergic. Same thing as anaphylactic. And it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Could it happen? Possibly. But I think we would see this more commonly because his theory when I was watching was if you get a bit of blood after you've done an injection, then there's been some blood vessels that have been damaged. I'm sure anybody that's had an injection out there, so you've had surgery or whatever, and you've had an intramuscular pain injection, a lot of people get a little bit of blood afterwards, and you don't have those kind of reactions. So, um, it was certainly an interesting theory, nonetheless. I'm just going to read Shady D's comment. She said, I heard the serial numbers ended with either a 1 or a 0, your two favorite numbers, Del.
Yes.
And if it got a 0, then it was placebo. Have you heard anything like that? I haven't, but what about you, Del? Have you heard that?
Nope, I haven't heard. I haven't really been following up heavily into one particular part of all of this, so I'll look into that a little bit more there.
Yeah.
That's a great one there, Shady D.
She's
Um,
got some great information
mhm.
and has shared many a great article with me. So just because we haven't seen it, Shady D, doesn't mean it's not true. So yeah, we will look into it, right, Del?
Yep. Well,
Hmm.
this goes into this whole part of this magic trick and this fraud that's being well, I'll say fraud. This is my opinion on this. This is not the opinion of UPRN or anybody else there. That when big name people that go to want to push something and they just do this, I guess this act, right? And that's what I'm saying. That's why this part is out there that says, "Hey, look at I got it. Look how easy it was,
Yeah.
right? No
Hmm.
effects
Hmm.
here, right? And
Hmm.
you're given whatever sugar water or something like that, or
Salt
whatever.
water or saline.
Yeah, just something that they have. They're on the down low behind whatever what they're doing, they're probably taking that ivermectin and everything else there that's helping them being prophylactic instead of being therapeutic, right? That was a part I talked about it when this first came out there, that none of this Pfizer stuff was prophylactic, a vaccine tendency, like whatever, that you would get something before you got sick, right? To help you not get sick, right? This stuff here, this medical device is neither therapeutic or prophylactic.
Well, what I heard today that just horrified me, and I don't normally put comments on people's podcasts, and I try not to be a know-it-all nurse, but there was somebody out there in the truther community. I'm going to name her. Nigan is her last name, Nguyen. And she had decided to explain why she believes the T man, we'll call him Mr. T, previous president, is now lauding and applauding the jabs and recommending everybody get it. She went into the definition of how a jab or vaccine, that's what it was, the wording has been changed by the CDC and the WHO. She then proceeded to tell people that because the T-man has taken ivermectin and has taken hydroxychloroquine and has taken azithromycin, which she couldn't pronounce, that these are all vaccines, and they made him immune. They make him immune to what's going around. I had to comment. I said, I'm sorry, but you don't know what you're talking about. I said, those were treatments. They're not giving you immunity. They can help your immune system, some of them taking prophylactically. I said, but that would be like calling insulin a vaccine because it makes you immune to diabetes. Insulin is not a vaccine. Insulin is a treatment to help you manage a disease process. And we're finding with these medical devices or jabs, and they're admitting this, that they don't prevent transmission. They don't prevent you getting sick. We're hearing from places that are almost 90% plus around the world, the amount of people that are ending up in the hospital that have been jabbed. And yet, I watched something on Rebel News today. There's a very good article that came out by the Canadian COVID Alliance. And this has many researchers, virologists, doctors in this. And they looked at the report that was put out for the first 6 months by Pfizer. That was, they had petitioned the court, Pfizer, I've heard anywhere from 50 to 75 years to keep it under wraps until it was released to the public. And the court said no, so it's been released. So these people took that document. It's a 40-minute presentation. I strongly urge you to take a look at it and watch it, because you will find out how they were saying to people that there's 95% protection and accuracy. And when they break it down for you, what they really used, there was 0.001% of a difference. And it makes total sense with the numbers when you look at it. The conflict of interest that were involved with this. There were so many things that were done with this study that you can see why Pfizer did not want this information released to the public. So they broke it down in the report. Like I say, it's an audio report. They've included many PDFs for people to look up at them for themselves to see what they're talking about and to compare notes with this presentation. So Rebel News covered this today. And I happen to be doing some of my resin work, my secondary little business I have on the side, and I didn't get a chance to turn the video off. And what came up afterwards was one of their newer, younger reporters going around Toronto asking what people's thoughts were on this, about, if people aren't jabbed versus jabbed. And I was horrified. Where'd you go, Deli? You must have to run for a second. I'll keep talking. I was absolutely horrified to hear what people were saying. And when he happened to point out that there is no difference, whether you've been jabbed or not, we're all at risk still. The only risk that you create for oneself if you don't get jabbed is that you could end up getting sick as well. And it was literally every time I hear this conversation, you had Jimmy Dore on with a comedian he was having this conversation with. I'll give you just one sec, I'll finish and you'll be able to be better able to describe it than I can. But hearing these conversations is literally, I don't know if it was Laurel and Hardy that had Who's on First or one of the
Mm-hmm.
earlier comedians, because this is what it does. It just goes in circles and people don't have an answer, but they're still sticking to this narrative that this is what people need to do. You have to do this, yet they're ignoring any other information that's come out. Like the comedian that was on Jimmy Dore. Who was that again?
Kurt Metzger.
I don't know, because that was crazy to listen to that conversation. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I don't know.
Well, Jimmy
That
Dore was pro jab. He's a bigger
right,
podcaster out there.
and he got
And
sick from it. He got that.
mhm.
He had a pre-existing, I believe, condition that
Is
what's the word?
exacerbated.
Exacerbated back and neck problems, and then I'm not sure what else, but it caused him whatever. Continued whatever discomfort and pain, and it just that. And the reason being was that something didn't agree with him, and this is why we talked about this last week on my show when we were talking about this. Is that not every medicine is good for everybody.
Hi, Michelle from Australia.
Hey,
G'day, y'all. No, and that's just it. But the whole point was Jimmy said himself that he opened his eyes because of what had happened to him. He since had Dr. Robert Malone. He's
mm-hmm.
had another couple other doctors on his show, and he's doing the research and understanding now more about what's really involved with all this.
Yeah,
And why did they do that show together? This is an acquaintance of his, wasn't it? That is pro jab, has been jabbed, believes everybody should be forced to be
right.
jabbed, and so on.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. That's that was okay. Now I know which one you're talking about. I was thinking, yeah, it wasn't Kurt. It was uh what's his name now? It's gonna bug me. I'd have to go and look it up on one of my past things there. But yeah, he was in this whole thing is that hey, well, everybody should get jabbed here because then we're all going to be equal with that, and then we just let the chips fall as they lie, right? And that's
Hi,
just
Sean.
the basic wrong way of thinking about something. That's why I said there before is that everything that you anything that you take and you put in your body is not good for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It might be good. That's why we have things like allergies and have whatever. Just even like we had no peanut allergies when I was a kid going to school. Now we have kids that have allergic to peanuts and you can't bring peanut butter and jam to school anymore. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's like so there's
Yeah, but they've also pointed out why that's happened. If you start to research it, because I had that question myself. And again, that we could do a whole show on this. I don't know if we could do it on YouTube, but I urge people to take a look about why are there so many allergies out there, especially severe anaphylaxis in the way of peanut allergies and what have you. And
ADHD.
you might be very surprised. The other thing I will point out is apparently this is an absolute medical mystery that in the Amish community, autism does not exist. Rarely
Mm,
does cancer, but guess what? They don't get jabbed. So I guess we could do the math, because I'll tell you right now, most of you know, I have a son, adult son with severe autism, Delsa's stepdad. And about 35 years ago, it was 1 in 10,000 boys diagnosed. And depending on where you live globally, it's between 1 in 38 and 1 in 52 children born under the spectrum. And they propose within the next 10 years, one out of every second child will be born with that diagnosis. Now,
mhm,
when it's not in your field of your vision or in your bubble, as Del and I say, there's too much to think about or worry about or focus on in the world. But when you start thinking about one in every second child could be diagnosed with this, this is a severe lifelong disability that does not go away. Who's going to care for these children? Who's going to look after these children? I mean, I don't even think we're even
mhm.
prepared for something like that. And that's just one thing. There's all kinds of things out there like that. We've got Sean from Chasing the Truth. He says, "Hey folks, hey Lorilei, GMO crops came into existence and the allergies kind of skyrocketed in the same time frame." Agree.
Mhm.
Kate Walker, no, they just don't diagnose autism in the Amish community or seek treatment if it does exist. So I can give you that, Kate. I can. Um, but whether or not I guess, there's got to be at least a few, I would say. There's not just one Amish community that, there's been people that have left the Amish community. And to me, again, I don't know every Amish community person there, but like I said, when you're seeing those incidences around the world and you're not seeing those numbers, whether they hide it or not, that, some of them do go to school, some of them don't. Like I said, I will give you that. I don't know everybody in the Amish community, but doesn't mean that they're not diagnosed. I mean, if you've got somebody that's quite severe, as my son is, whether you hide it or get diagnosed or not, I don't know, Del, what do you think?
Yeah, no, that's an interesting part there.
Hmm.
Uh, the big part there is, I think, is the way their lifestyle and the food that they eat, and I think
Hmm.
that we've moved society, a lot of society, into these cities, and because we've done that, where they're dealing with farming and living off the land, and that
Hmm.
most people are metropolis ridden, and they are shopping from a grocery store that is eating these processed foods, eating these
Hmm.
uh,
GMO.
mass farming, injected meat, chicken, pork, and stuff like
Hmm.
that, packaged food and canned food, and a lot of that stuff. And I could say that it could be a possibility. I think it is, but that this our food sources from eating processed food and canned food and all that has probably caused a little bit more of
Absolutely agree.
these situations to
Hmm.
appear in the population.
Hmm.
Going back to this one part there with when we're talking about these other medicines, and this was a part out of this. Like if you're interested there, watch this Spotify Joe Rogan with that Doctor
Dr.
Malone.
Robert Malone. Hmm.
Right. And I think it's like in the first hour, the first 30 minutes was really interesting. He gives his whole details about who he's been, where he did all this stuff, who's he's been connected to, and
I'm
everything like
here.
that.
I just want to find out one of the things that he said that I shared with somebody today that I
Okay.
think was really important. So go ahead. Sorry, I'm going to find
But
it.
one part, and I have to go and look at this more and research this to find out if it is fully true in that, is that in one of the largest cities in India, what they did as a prophylactic treatment before this uh, Omicron had come into part is they gave this they called it like a package. Everybody in the city was given
Hmm.
something like this, and that they said that the city there in India is in relation to the population of the
Hmm.
U.S. They're like around 340 million people,
Hmm.
and they were all given this uh, little package, whatever it was, of pills and stuff like that to take. And he says he, on good authority, with his whatever whoever he's connected was, that Joe Biden went there to go find out what was given to these people and whether or not he found out exactly what it was or not, but that information of whatever it was not brought back and shared with the rest of the public
Well, I know there's a
or the
community.
population of the U.S.
I
So
want to
that
say,
seems really interesting.
well, yeah, I know in Venezuela, the same thing. I've seen pictures of the packets that they get, and they have everything in there with instructions about what to take, how to take it. There's aspirin, there's Tylenol, there's a Z-Pak or azithromycin, there's hydroxychloroquine, there's ivermectin, there's vitamin D, there's vitamin C. There's a whole huge package. It looks like a big bag of stuff.
Hmm.
And anybody that's ill, this is handed out to them, and their numbers are quite low there too. But when
Well,
you
that was the
mentioned
thing about this India place that is the population equal to whatever the states is that they've eliminated nobody
yeah.
dead.
Hmm.
Nobody dead anymore from
Yeah, and the numbers are almost not
C-19.
existing. What I wanted to say though with Dr. Robert Malone, there's an excellent, it came off of Sovereign Media with Ben Swan, and he isolated this. And I was just having this conversation with somebody today saying, I don't understand how everybody can't see this. And he highlighted this. It says Dr. Robert Malone says we are living in mass formation psychoses. And I urge you guys to look that up because it perfectly explains what's going on here. why we're dividing, what's happening, and why people are following a certain narrative, and what when the extreme fear and anxiety has been created. And it was a really I it really made a lot of sense. Really made a lot of sense.
Well,
I
that's the whole part of this going towards this great reset in this 2030 is to go and break down society to make them dependent, right? And this
Mhm.
and another part that I just mentioned this to you before is because I work in a grocery store, so I deal with people like all day long in
Mhm.
that. And being up at the front there at the till, I've noticed more and more people have gotten away from using cash. And I'd mentioned this to you
Yeah.
earlier,
Mhm. Mhm.
and this goes into this whole part of this Great Reset Agenda 2030 thing is to get people away from money, right? Because the government or cannot track money the way that they can track
Digital.
your digital payment. And this came up. I think it was off of Glenn Beck. I think it's out of his new book, and it was with this other guy there that he co-wrote the book with. Is that depending on seeing how things are going and going forward, this could be an interesting thing. Is that if you're just using digital currency to pay for things and they're tracking you, and the government or the powers that be go like this and say, well, hey, you've been to the grocery store too much, you've spent $100. When you go back to that grocery store, your card won't work, but
Mhm.
it might work over here at the gas station. Or maybe you've already taken your allotment of gas because carbon we have this huge carbon
Mhm.
problem that was there, so you cannot buy gas anymore until the following week, right?
Mhm.
And they're saying, and the way that they can control this is by whatever money system you're using. Everything is tracked. They're tracking you how you're spending your money, period, with these cards. And it's the same thing as even when you were paying cash at the stores years and years ago, they would always ask you for your name and your postal code.
They still
And
ask you for that.
right.
Mhm.
But this part here,
Postal
this is
code.
what I think is dangerous about this is this digital currency is that now they know, or they can actually turn on and off the faucet or whatever for you buying and spending and where you're spending stuff, and they know what you're spending it on. And that's why I always, like I said before, is that I always carry cash around, and to have cash as a backup, but also you don't need them knowing like what would you had to go and buy something and all of a sudden your card doesn't work anymore because they turned off your card, right? Like
Mhm.
that's going to be a crazy thing, or turn off your bank account, you're not able to access,
Well,
you're only able
Shady
to
D is
access.
right about this. She said they're tracking PayPal now. They have been for a long time. And
Mm-hmm,
anybody that speaks up or is pretty loud and has quite an audience, I know so many people personally that are in that position where they have lost, they don't have credit cards, they can't use PayPal, they can't use, there's no way for them to get any banking done to run their
mm-hmm.
business or anything like that. I mean, we've just seen this. Ezra Levant from Rebel News made it pretty
Oh yeah, with
clear.
the RBC, the
Hmm.
Royal Bank of Canada. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
they've denied him
A
mortgage
mortgage.
mortgage loans. Yeah,
And not because of not be the bank wanted to give him the money
it was, yeah,
in
JT and
Calgary.
the Sunshine Band. Yeah.
Yeah, it was because of his political views. They've made it pretty clear.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the thing, though. People aren't aware of this, but you got to realize, like, and you kind of, I've even seriously looked at satellite phones, but they're so expensive. But your phone, we've got iPhones, and you just say, "Hey Siri," and your phone turns on. Your phone's listening all the time. It
Yeah.
it sees you all the time. So JD says, I just had to give more info to PayPal that the government was gathering, or I was going to lose my account.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. And that's the thing, right? And I don't like, and I say this always on my shows that, if we could just agree to disagree and put our differences aside and realize that we are stronger together if we stand up as a group and say, no, no more, no more, and this could be over. But the problem is, like, and I'm going to go back to that, what I was absolutely horrified when I seen this young kid interviewing just random people off the street in Toronto, and this is over the Christmas holidays. And there was many people saying, well, I don't see what the problem is that you don't want to disclose your vaccination status. they couldn't understand that you shouldn't have to disclose any of your medical history to anybody. And there's so much finger pointing going on with
Hmm.
people that are jabbed. Like I'm gonna say this. I was speaking to a relative last night that I don't speak to very often, and one of their children is a oncologist, and they brought up that you got to get jabbed. Three-quarters of the world is jabbed, and it's the quarter that's not jabbed that's causing all the problems. No, it's not. And then the
Uh-huh.
other thing is, I think what really broke my heart was to know that this relative of mine that's an oncologist is promoting this and telling people to get this and you have to get this. And I thought, oh dear God, like I think people are forgetting that, what happened to my choice, my body? Like we had all this and Me Too and all of a sudden like it's just whatever fits the narrative. Things get swept under the carpet or brought back out whenever it seems to fit the right?
Yeah, it just reminds me that that saying that parents would say to little kids there when they did something bad or something like that. They say, "Hey, if your friends told you to jump off a cliff or whatever, do you just go and jump
Yeah,
off a cliff?"
yeah,
Right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's 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 that sort of mentality, and this is well, that's comes into the whole part about this cancel culture, SJWs, and the whole cancel culture period. If you don't do what I say, we'll cancel you.
That's what Dr. Robert Malone was talking about this, that basically there's somebody out there that looks like the great white savior. He didn't call them that, that's my wording. And people, because they're afraid, and somebody that's in the public eye stands up and says, hey, I can fix this for you. All you got to do is follow me. And I'm oversimplifying here.
Mhm.
And anybody that goes against that narrative, especially when you get a large following, they turn on the person because they're an outsider. They're a threat to what the belief is, and it becomes almost like a hypnosis situation. He was talking about it made perfect sense. Now I want to read Michelle Pratt's comment because I think this is important. She said, my friend paid me out, so I think basically balled her out, about having a Google Mini. I laughed and said, we are already talking on a smartphone, and I know you have a smart TV. They're always listening. That is true, but I will be very honest with you, Michelle. We have a Amazon Echo. Do we have that on in our house still? Uh, uh,
Now,
uh.
what was that? What was that one that you got there? You won
That
that.
was the Amazon Echo, and I can tell you,
Oh
I
yeah,
have
that
had
thing with
some.
that was that thing was that was at the old house, and when that
Mhm.
thing you had that going for maybe about a week, and that thing started doing weird stuff and picking up and doing,
Uh-huh.
and it's like get this thing out of the house.
Like, well, mind you, we lived in a house with severe paranormal activity, but I can tell you, my eldest son was all excited because I had won this, and he came in and he asked it, Alexa, play, and it was some pop song that was out, and this would have been about 4 or 5 years ago, and I don't know what the hell was playing, but it was the most satanic screamo. I can't even call it rock. And the words that were coming out, and it was like "Hail Satan," and like my son and I were just looking at each other with our mouths hanging open. And I understand, yes, we have a smartphone, yes, it's listening. But when you start getting into things like, and this is just our thoughts, but you get a, say, an Amazon Alexa or Google, well, then they're able to know like when you use your microwave, when you use your electricity, when you cook, when you know what I'm saying? It can happen with a smart TV too,
Right.
but
This is exactly what I was saying about the digital currency running this with money. They're trying to give people this illusion that it'd be easier, right? Everything is all in one place. You just need one thing. But the thing is, was that, and this is exactly the reason why Facebook exists there. That was like the FBI or CIA wasn't able to run their program, so that Facebook opened up the same day they were denied. And basically, it is the information gathering thing, and they make money off of advertising. They find out where you are. But to take it one step further, and this was brought out by Snowden too, as well, is that this was also an information gathering thing to find out who you're connected to and who you're
yep.
doing. Same thing with that 23andMe and Ancestry.com. You think that information is just for you and it's held in and confidentially back at there.
I've had
No,
people argue with me. Well, it says
that
they're not going to use it for anything else. They can
of
tell you
course that
whatever the heck they want.
exactly. It's been used already in a couple of crimes, solving crimes. There,
BTK killer, serial killer they tried to catch for almost 30 years. How did they
yeah,
catch him? Wasn't 23andMe, but it was another genetic profile. He got sloppy, not realizing in the digital age, he had gone kind of undercover for about 10, 15 years. And it happened to be mentioned on one of his anniversaries that he seems to have disappeared. Possibly he's died or he's been caught already. And he sent them I believe it was a CD or a DVD, was sent with something digital to the police station, not realizing that every one of those places where you record something has a digital signature on it. So they were
hmm
able to pinpoint where this disc came from. But how he was caught was one of his relatives went and had the DNA testing. That's how they were able to catch him. And the thing is same thing. This place, no, we don't give your private stuff to anybody. We don't participate with police units. We don't. Well, look what's happened. Like you said, and that's not the only one. That's just one I can think of.
yeah, and that was okay. I'd have to go back and check my notes somewhere. I think they might be downstairs.
Hmm.
But the present or the founder of Ancestry.com or 23andMe is either the wife or the sister of Google, and their sister-in-law is something of one of the other big, huge internet
YouTube,
companies.
YouTube.
I don't know if it was YouTube or something. I can't
Hmm.
remember, but they're all connected, all sharing information, and they're all working with these like CIA type
Don't the Mormons
organizations.
too have like a mountain or something? Like they've got
Yeah,
a DNA sample of practically
yeah.
everything.
Well, that's who had the. I think my mom did that for me and my brothers there to get our our heritage done with about my grandmother who was Cree Indian to get that whole thing there for
No, but
me.
didn't you say that? Like they have a storage facility that they
Yep, they
have
have a huge
DNA for?
mountain. Yeah, a huge mountain. Actually, you can see it on Google Google Earth, and the mountain has a big carving in the top part of the mountain that has some sort of symbol. But all inside there is all the genealogy records. But that goes back to a long time ago. If you want to go into the whole part with them, is that the reason they were collecting all that stuff is because they pray for your soul, right? So when you're dead, so they have that list of things, or it's all part of this belief. And that's a whole nother topic to get into religion, dealing with.
I'm just Augie what decided to text me. I told him to get a hold of me on Facebook, but he decided to text me. So I'm still here. So keep talking. Oh darn it, it won't copy for me. Hang on, I gotta try and copy it.
Yeah,
More
but
copy.
if you go into the weird parts about religions and what they did, there's that part there. That's a really interesting story about even though if you didn't your fellow uh, Mormon relative didn't convert you, they go and collect all this information so that they can pray for your soul in the afterlife or something
The
like that.
afterlife.
It's something weird. Then see, like my family has had everything, right? Says I got uh, on my mom's side, Roman Catholic bishop. Got well, just even with my mom, their Pentecostal church, but it also was in the United Church. And then my dad's sister, Jehovah Witness, and my mom's sister was Mormon when she was alive,
Yeah,
right?
you guys all had quite a mixture there. I wanted to
Yeah.
add
So
something.
I've dealt
Okay.
with a lot of different religions
Hmm.
and stuff like that, which is sort of interesting. But
I
yeah,
wanted to add something here with Shady D says she has to head to bed. Have a wonderful night. So thanks for joining us. Great comments, Shady D. But Michelle, I wanted to add something. There's a comment, and then when you said, "Oh wow, scary about Amazon Alexa," I encourage you to take a look on YouTube about scary things with Google or with Alexa and see like people have filmed it. Like it's not like it's made up. I'm sure some of them probably are, but there's quite the stories out there and things that people have caught on these things and where they come from, God knows. God knows, because as you know, at least with Amazon Alexa, you can go right into the app or on the website and see where the entry came from, or if there was a voice that came through, or whatever, right? Whenever
Hmm.
it goes off, you can see that a lot of
Hmm.
these people haven't been able to track where this stuff is coming from. So,
Hmm.
but the other thing,
I just want to make one point there too, is that I think technology is great. I
yeah,
think there's a lot of usefulness for technology, and I think it's great when you use technology, not when technology starts using you. I think that's the.
excellent, excellent. I did want to add, because I don't know if she was not sure if we talked about this or not. Michelle says, "Have you noticed it's gone from a virus to a disease? Have you heard that?"
I haven't heard it been
I
called a
haven't
disease
either.
yet. No, maybe in other parts around the world there, but I don't know. It's with work there, I haven't been sort of as depthly into following this
Yeah.
as closely as I have been. But
Well, she's in Australia too, and
mhm,
with what you guys are going through. And I wanted to point something else out too, Delia. It's like we have to be so careful about information. And
mhm,
this is no shade to anybody. I appreciate when people share things with me. But I think, especially, I was having this conversation with somebody today that even trusted sources that we've always used, I think we have to be very discerning. For example, I had somebody send me a video. It looked like two guys dressed up in naval uniforms, except they were in this like trolling boat through the marina in some part of Hawaii. I through a megaphone going on and on and on about that there's martial law and the whole bit. Like it was quite the thing to see, right? And I knew right away this has to be a BS. But this person sent this to me, and instead of taking that it just was shown a couple hours ago, I went to the original source on TikTok. It had been posted 6 days ago. Well, I have a good friend that's in Hawaii, so I sent this to her and said, I'm guessing this is BS. And of course, she wrote me back right away and said, absolutely, there's no truth to it. But this is what happens, right? And we all make mistakes when we send stuff out, but I think we have to be so discerning nowadays because it's, especially when you get somebody that maybe puts a fair amount of truth with some lies or vice versa.
mhm.
So you really got to be careful. I don't know
I
what's your thoughts.
Yes, I totally agree, because this is the danger about social media and
Mm-hmm.
reacting to posts
Be
right out
right
of the
back.
way without getting the full amount of information. I was watching this one incident that happened, and I think it was somewhere in the States. I think it was at one of the universities. I'm not sure if it was ASU, Arizona State University, or not.
Right,
And it was a multicultural center that was there, and these two female of color
right.
people were phoning the security office and were filming it because there was two white guys that were over at the other across the room, and one had a sticker on there, I support the police.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, we feel threatened by these guys, and so they're phoning the campus security to come down there and have these guys removed from the multicultural center because these two girls felt threatened. And they were putting this all up on Twitter or TikTok or whatever it was, and running with this. And I think this was also I think in the part there it says that one of the girls was also the part of the group that wanted to ban Kyle Rittenhouse from coming to school there. So I'm not sure
Oh,
if it was ASU or not, or something like that. But this is how these cancel culture, these SJW, these, I don't want to say these, I don't like using that word, these, or type of people that get into this twisted group mentality to exclude. Like if you have a multicultural center, what do you think multicultural means? It means
mm-hmm.
everybody, not everybody, but not whites, right? That doesn't make any sense. But that's how this programming of being the school, or this it just this thought process is going through people, which is causing a bigger divide. And these are all tricks the OSF that uses anyways, and that's why they put they pay for these people to get put into power. And this is what your kids are learning in school.
Well, that is it critical race theory? That really scares me with the
Oh yeah,
things I've
yeah.
been seeing that's being taught. And you guys, if you've got kids in in school, I strongly urge you to really be having a chat with their teachers and finding out what their curriculum is, because
Yeah.
it's pretty darn scary, some of the stuff that's just made it into the media. Like there's been teachers out there that were teaching Marxism, communism, and so many other things. And it's so difficult to find out, because if most of you have kids like I had when they were growing up, you ask them how their day was, fine. What would you do in school? Nothing. Like, the only thing is we knew better, Dell and I, with the youngest, because he was in special ed. But we've got quite an eye opener with a lot of that stuff too.
Hmm.
Whereas, like, if you've got two parents that have to be working all day, a lot of people don't have that kind of time to be able to, go and dig a little further, because it's I don't know. I really don't know. I think the education system needs to be overhauled. It all does, but I think until we all pull together, I don't know what the solution is, because that's what a lot of people were saying when I kept mentioning about Rebel News and the interview with these people about what their thoughts were on the jab versus the unjab. A lot of people just said, I something needs to be done, but I don't know what it is. So, we can talk about the problems, but what kind of solutions do we have?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find something here for. Oh, here, this is what it was. If anybody wants, this is about 36 minutes and 2 seconds long. It's on
Hmm.
YouTube. It's the station is the Babylon B, Babyylon B,
Hmm.
and they basically just go through the idiocracy of 2021, of the way that people have gone through things there. That was the little cartoons that we were watching there. They had the one there that was a cartoon of the person that about anybody that talked anything bad about the LGBT or transgender stuff there, that it was like a sort of a part of like
Well,
how the
even let's
Twilight
talk
Zone.
about that. We watched the Dave Chappelle
Yeah.
comedy special. You'd seen it already. I hadn't. And all this information about what a horrible person he was and this and
Hmm.
that. You can tell that whoever started that did not watch that whole presentation, because there was anything but hatred, or there
Uh-huh.
wasn't any ounce of malice in what he was saying. And I'm going to be very honest with you. I have somebody very close to us, both of us do. My eldest son is part of the LGBTQ community. We have somebody very close to us within the transgender community. We don't have an issue with anybody, and
Hmm.
especially that community. But when you hear what he actually had to say,
Hmm.
there wasn't an ounce of malice in what he had to say,
Right.
and they were going to cancel him.
Yep. That's the
Hmm.
thing, though, right? That's when you have. I don't know. I can't say when you have these things or whatever, because unless you're in the situation or you see the situation yourself, and you have no pros or cons or no side of the
I'm
argument in
here
it, but
still.
you just watch it and you see it, and then you look at it at the situation. You have to really sort of start shaking your head at. Is that acceptable for everybody or just for a certain amount of people, right? And that's, I
Hmm.
guess, what the part is with these new. Well, this is the part what I was talking about with these two girls that were trying to get these two boys kicked out of this multicultural center at a university, and it made no sense because they didn't like that they were white men or white boys, and they had a sticker on there that they thought was offensive. They were saying that they were felt threatened by them and needed these people removed. That's what kind of thinking is that? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, you know what? I think it goes back to what you said before, that when we don't look back at history, or have what actually really happened in history, that people forget. And I know the questions we always asked was, how did it ever get like that?
Hmm.
Sorry, I was emailing Augie the link. He is having a hard time getting it off of his phone. So he's trying to come on here, guys. So,
Okay.
but
Well,
when
you,
you
you
look,
talk for a bit. I just gotta run there very quickly. Okay.
okay, yeah, no problem. I'll keep talking. But you know what? We've talked about a lot of the negative stuff, but what do you guys think? I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you guys think is going to happen in 2022? Have any of you guys made any reservations? I always say reservations. Um, New Year's resolutions. Is there anything you're hoping to change or make better? Or, how have you been coping with all of this? Do you guys have a community that you can connect with that will support you? Because unless there is a major miracle, because that's something I had a conversation with a very close friend of mine today, was that, she was actually really kind of feeling alone because a lot of the communities that she belongs to, everybody seems to be clinging to the fact that they're expecting some, and I'm going to say it again, some great white savior to come and save them, rather than realizing that I think this has to come from within. And again, it's my opinion and mine alone, but I really believe that this is an awakening process for everybody that so chooses to take part in it, and to recognize, and I've said this many times on my show, that we are so much more powerful than we've ever been led to believe. We are so much more gifted than we've ever been led to believe. And, I think that that comes with some self discovery. Um, and Michelle said, I honestly feeling alone, even though I'm not. And I hear you, Michelle. Like, I know Dell last Thursday after the show had said he didn't want to talk about some of the stuff we were talking about. And I said, for some people, this is the only space where people have a place to connect with like-minded people and to be able to talk about these things. Now, some of the things that I've shared with people, and again, I had a long conversation with a close friend about all this today, about, really finding that inner strength, finding out who you are and what you're made of. And there's a saying that I love that says, you never know how strong you can be until strong is all you have. And we all have that, but there's strength in numbers too. When I had Dr. Carrie Madej on, I think she had some good points, and I'm hearing more and more people say this, that we may very well have to start connecting with like-minded people, building other communities, because I don't know what the answer is, but like I said, a lot of the answers in what I brought up with that Dr. Robert Malone about what's happening here and why people are so, bent on their belief system. And then, I've had to remind myself and others the way I feel and what I believe in. I do try to consider other people's opinions, but I know how I feel and what I believe in, and other people, what they believe in, they feel just as strongly about it. So I really think this is about inner, self discovery. Um, and it's hard. And I think that we are in for, like we talked a little bit about this the last time when you were here, Michelle, you felt that possibly in March, I've been hearing a lot of that too, that there's going to be some kind of shift. But I really believe this is about, that's what I was talking about, Del,
Okay.
was what the answer is. And I think this is about, rather than expecting some great white savior to come and save you, that this is about discovering your inner strength, your gifts, understanding that we are so much more powerful than we've ever been led to believe. We have so many more gifts, and there's strength in numbers and pulling together and, letting go of some of these extraneous things. Because the one thing I was going to add when you were talking, I don't follow Paris Hilton. It happened to come up in my stream on Instagram, and I just about died because she's always with the newest and greatest and latest thing. Well, what was she doing on New Year's? Ringing in the new year in her metaverse space. So she's one of the first celebrities I've seen that has pulled that out.
Hey,
With
we just watched that new Matrix movie there too, eh?
yes,
The
we did. Yes.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, that's almost the metaverse, I guess you could say, in a way. And it was
Hmm.
actually on that Babylon B. They sort of made a funny thing about that there too, as well, about um, people being in there, and then they get plugged back into the system again. It says, "Hey, do you want to take the pill or the blue pill?" And then it says, "Hey, the blue pill means Democrats." Okay, well, we support Democrats. We're taking the blue.
I'm just messaging poor Augie. He's having a heck of a time getting in here, you guys. I hope he can get in. He asked me to email. That's where I keep disappearing to. Michelle said, I feel in March things will be dropped. No more of what we have been living with. Not sure what's after March. Probably a new kind of normal. Well, I hate to be, I'm not trying to be negative here, but I've been seeing a lot of people talking about this, and I tend to agree. I think that's what's going to eventually happen is there is going to come a time and space where the world is going to discover the truth, whether they're ready for it or not. But what I think is going to happen is for those who have not been aware of what's really been going on, especially if they've brought their children in to get these shots, because most parents will do anything for your children. You give your life. I mean, there's nobody on the planet that we love more than our own offspring. And when they discover this, I think there's going to be such a rage. I really do. I think we're going to see either a lot of civil war or we're going to see a lot of suicide or both. I don't know, Del, what do you think?
Hmm. I, uh, I don't know. I think that people are going to just, I guess, in the part of the wake up is they're going to go and say, like, I don't like the term woke. I don't like the term waking up really that much at all. But I think they're just going to soon discover is how did we get here?
Their
And
whole life's a lie. Anybody I know that has awoken in the last couple of years, I think yeah, I never said that myself, but it's been quite a few years that you and I have been awake. And
mhm,
again, I don't know what other term to say, aware of what's going on. But
yeah,
most people I have met that have come full circle and realized what's going on, many of them that I've met personally have actually almost gone through a bit of a depression with the fact that, oh my God, my whole life has been a lie. And that
right.
those are their words, not mine. Hmm.
And then you have to look at it from a different point of view. There is that you have these kids that are growing up and being propagandized in school and being sort of put like another brick in the wall or put in line to follow through. They don't know any different.
No.
They accept because this is how it's always been for them.
Hmm.
See, well, like I'm 51, gonna be 52 this year. I know how it was pre-computer time that we were,
Hmm.
and before all this technology sort of flooded in, and how life sort of was over the last 50 years. But you have kids that are growing up now that are 20, 30 years old, and they see a little bit of change, and they have the ones that are growing up now that are in
Hmm.
this, and this is how their life was. They figure that's the normal, right? They don't like the term the new normal, but they grew up in the new normal, and they don't know any different, and they just accept and they believe because that's what they're being told this is how life is, right? And they when they move the temperature up as they're boiling away with that frog in there, and they're closer to the end, right, of the finale of it. They don't know the beginning part before the frog ever was tossed in the pot.
No, I hear you with that. What does concern me is there's certain developmental stages that we all need to go through from infancy right through to adulthood. And you think about all these children that have been raised with people having masks on. I mean, how do you learn how to read facial expressions? Even, a lot of kids learn by watching somebody's mouth while you're speaking. You don't realize a lot of us do that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, just even think of that part you just said with the metaverse there, where people are just plugged into that part. There is that you create your own avatar in what you believe that what you are, whether you're a frog with a rabbit tail and cheetah legs,
people are buying real
right?
estate in the metaverse already. They're
Yeah.
buying real estate. Like I didn't, obviously, I had no interest in going to Paris Hilton's New Year's Eve party, but I would not be surprised if she has bought some kind of real estate in there because this is what they're saying. People with money are going in there.
Yep, they're
I
buying
mean,
real estate. Yeah.
yeah, so it doesn't even exist. So why are you paying for this?
Hmm.
I, I,
Well,
I
that
don't
comes
get
into
it.
this whole part of what to spend money on, right? What is important? We think we talk about before, like what's the law of threes. What's more important, water or gold, right? So now you're
Water.
right. So now you're putting things into the part of a make believe matrix, as you would say, metaverse that
Hmm.
doesn't exist. Period. Someone asked to put it into that part of like that Ready Player One scenario where everybody is spending all their time just plugged in with their Oculus on, and they exist in the character that they created in this fake reality.
Well, look at that movie Wall-E. Like that movie Wall-E, if you think about
Oh
it,
yeah,
like
yeah.
everybody, it didn't necessarily say they were in the metaverse, but weren't they on that ship? And like they were so overweight and weak because they just laid around in these chairs and the earth was so polluted
Well,
and
everything was taken care of them by
hmm
technology,
yeah.
and all their food wasn't that because they destroyed the planet so badly, and that's why
Hmm.
Wally was like that little garbage robot
Hmm.
that was
Yeah.
to go and clean up the garbage. That's why all the garbage pot, and then they come back. The ship does its journey away, and then comes back, and they oh well, the planet's still there, and then he finds that little flower that there was
Plant.
actually green, that the planet was actually starting to heal itself, and then that was the whole big finale there, that the technology still wanted to be in control, right? Wanted to maintain its power, didn't want to give it up
Hmm.
because it controlled all the fleshies, I
Well,
guess you would
that kind
say.
of makes me think too. What I've seen recently is there was a broadcast out of India that China, on one border of the India, has got these. They look like they're wheels, and they have this long AR-15, and they're all along the border. They said that it's all AI, and apparently they're working on trying to make these AI weapons cognizant. They've got dogs, attack dogs that are.
Yeah, from that Boston Dynamics there was
Mhm.
actually I watched a documentary on there was a similar thing to that Boston Dynamics thing with the dogs with the weapons there that they were trying to put across the border.
They did. It is
Yeah.
there. They said they were very, very concerned about this. But I was saying that in war, I mean, war is a horrible thing, but you still have some sort of human element, wasn't it? And I think it was World War II on Christmas Day they called a truce, didn't they? And they all um I don't know. I think it might have been. I don't quote me. I don't know who it was. The Canadians and Americans, I think, with one of the opposing forces, and they celebrated Christmas. It was either that one or World War One, but they actually held a truce for 24 hours with Christmas. But my whole point is, you've got the human element, but you've got AI having to make a decision. Now, what does AI base a decision on? Like I even looked at an interview with that Sophia that is actually has citizenship. I believe it's in
Dubai.
Dubai.
Yep.
She wants a baby, and she says that we're not dangerous to humans. And she admitted in this interview that they get to watch movies like Will Smith's I, Robot and stuff to know
Hmm.
not how to act.
Right. Well,
I
that's gonna be
yeah.
crazy when they hook that up to that what's that supercomputer what is that one they're called? The one that's super cold. When they were thinking that that was being all the QAnon stuff there. What's that computer called?
Oh, you just made me lose my mind about what it was there for a sec. It was on the tip of my tongue. Quantum computer.
Yeah, quantum computer.
Hmm.
Wait till they hook up AI to the quantum computer, where there's how quantum computing actually works, and then that's going to be the next level of brain smarts for
Hmm.
a computer or for a non-humanoid AI robot. And
Check
well,
it on
that
Augie.
was almost that was almost part of the plot there for Ultron in Iron Man or whatever, the Age
Hmm.
of Ultron, right? Hooked up to uh, Stark's their computer, and that it becomes sentient. And that's the whole part about what the Terminator movie was about, right? This whole thing about technology and technocracy and this whole merging human with technology is this is happening right now. Anyways,
I
this is being
know.
tested on. Like that was the whole part that Elon Musk was talking about, putting computer chips into people's brains and linking them up to those so that they wouldn't need their smartphone anymore. They would just go in, you just click in through your brain, and your brain through this connector would connect you to the World Wide Web. Now people think that the World Wide Web is the whole part of the World Wide Web. The World Wide
Uh,
Web is basically the top of the iceberg.
Hmm.
Everything else, the dark web, the deep web, everything else where all the real stuff is, basically the other 90% that's all underneath there, where
Hmm.
real stuff is actually happening, and dark stuff too as well, and some good stuff there. This little 10% that's floating above the ice, that's where all the commercialism is, that's where all the tracking's going on and everything like that. That's why governments and agencies want to control all of it, because they want all your information, right? Because if they can find out pre-crime on you or find out what you're doing, like this, you got to think that some of these movies that they're coming out with there
Predictive
that people are
programming.
thinking about is like, this is maybe foreshadowing that's going
It's predictive programming, I believe it is.
right.
And
You put that out there, and then people, like, when it happens, they're like, oh, they, it's not a shock anymore. It was like the whole thing that was supposed to be this alien disclosure, and then you have the government in the U.S. and other countries going, oh yes, we've seen these UAPs now. They're not UFOs. They've renamed them, and
mhm,
we've gotten to this culture now where we've renamed and put acronyms to everything, but renamed them and changed them from the original, right? You change the story to create the new story. You change the history so that you, when they do something that happened 70 years ago, which was bad for humanity, but we've just renamed it. It's something new,
and
right?
repackaged it.
Repackaged it in the, yes, exactly. We've changed the old Henry, put it in a Snickers wrapper,
Hmm.
and there you go, and people don't know the difference, and that's what I've said it many times, and I've said it with you, and that is that why it's so important to remember history. You got to remember, part of history that's there is written by the winners, but some of the stuff, you there is some good stuff that's in history that is there that teaches you about the future and your current climate that you're in.
Hmm.
And by removing it all, changing things, rebranding them, doesn't do anybody any good. We've talked about it before. What they did with changing when they made the female Ghostbusters, they they could have just did the female Ghostbusters with their own names.
Oh, I think Augie might be here. Augie's here, finally.
Hey,
Hey,
Hey, how's it
Augie.
going?
Augie, I don't know. Have you met Del before? He's my partner in crime, and
hi.
he was
Yeah,
holding down
we
the
met
fort.
there quickly. There, one show there. I just popped my head in and said hello. Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
we were
yeah.
just holding down the fort, talking about what's going on, talking about AI. I'm going to introduce you for those. Most of you probably know Aage Nost. He is the co-host of Broadcast Team Alpha with the lovely Nori Love. Um, God, you're a pilot. You can speak so many languages. What am I missing, Augie? There's probably a million things I'm missing with you.
Nothing.
The
That
mastermind
covers it.
creator. We're going to talk about that. So, what we were talking about before you came on was we were just going over like some of the stuff that happened last year. We were just talking about AI and basically how they're taking things from the past in history, repackaging it, giving it a little different name, and then putting it back out there. It wasn't good for us maybe 70, 80 years ago, and it's still not good for us, right, Del? Is that, did I miss anything?
Yeah, there's basically that's the whole part about it, is changing the part of history to change the narrative of today to get some sort of agenda going forward. And I think the whole part of it is that we said is that we see this because, well, we're a little bit older and we've seen this pre-technology coming through, but kids that are growing up today that are 10, 20, 30 years old, they only know the life that they're in here now, and they only what they've been told, the propaganda they've been told in school, and this is what they believe their reality is. They don't know the difference because people are changing history.
Yep.
So that's
And
where
that's been going on for a long
Mm-hmm.
time.
hmm.
If you take away history, people have nothing to learn from.
Right.
We know that. So once we know the problem, we can study it, understand it, and then we don't need to think about it anymore, because what we allow to dwell in our mind the most, that is what we're going to have in our life.
Hmm.
So we need to change our thinking a little bit now. I bet a whole crackpot full of people is ready for a brand new beginning this year, 2022.
That's why I asked you to come on because we knew when. I'm glad you were able to connect because I was hoping, like we've talked about many of the things that are happening. We've talked about what's going on, but I'd like to leave people with some solutions. Like some Michelle, from Australia here right now, in the comments, has said, I'm honestly feeling alone, even though I am not. And I think like we're going back down into lockdown here in Ontario tomorrow night after midnight, we just found out. So, there's so many people feeling lost, um, people that have no clue what's really going on. But what can we do to empower ourselves? Because that's what I was saying. I think this is about rather than waiting for some great white savior to come save us, it's about us awakening, understanding how powerful we are, how many gifts that we have as human beings, and that when we pull together as a collective, putting our differences aside, how we can affect change. So I'd love to hear your thoughts too on that as well, Augie. What can people do to start to feel better about this or affect some change?
Well, I wish I could take credit for it, but I can't. A
Mm-hmm.
wiser man than me said one time, 2,300 years ago, it's not the bad things that happen in your life that bothers you.
Mm-hmm.
It's how you think about the bad things that
Mm-hmm.
happen in
True.
your life.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all up here. That's right here and in the heart.
Mm-hmm.
That is where we decide how we're going to feel.
Mm-hmm.
So if we know there's crap going on, understand it, analyze it, and then leave it alone. Don't even bring it into your mind anymore because the mind doesn't know the difference
True.
between something good that it's thinking about or bad that it is thinking about and the real thing that is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Keep thinking about the things that you want in the future, that you want new things to happen in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Leave the crap and the garbage behind. Disassociate yourself with, okay, here's the term, energy vampires.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I bet you all know
There's
one.
tons
That's
of
every
them.
time you talk to them, there's something negative coming out of them that drags you down to their level of vibration and thinking. And boy,
Mm-hmm.
do I have a few that I know.
Mm-hmm.
I had that happen today.
Yeah.
Somebody starting a new project, and I mentioned that this year one of my goals is to start my online store with my resin business. Well, e-commerce is so difficult and it's awful and blah 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 blah. And I thought maybe that's your experience, but I don't choose to look at it that way, right? But I share that experience because could I have listened to him and mired myself down in fear and like, why bother? You know what? He says he's been doing this for 20 years, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm not gonna adopt that way of thinking because I'm a different human being than he is. And I do believe in what I always say, focus on what we want to see, not what we don't.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Because we are in control, or we should be in control of our mind.
Hmm.
If
Is
we
it?
are not, somebody else is controlling it, and they're not controlling it for our purpose. They are controlling it for their purpose, which may not work for you.
Hmm.
So spend some time in meditation.
Hmm.
And here's something that everybody should take heart to, and that is know what you want. Half the
Hmm.
people in the world, they say, well, yeah, I'm just living my days, whatever happens happens, and I guarantee you it will happen.
I think
Mhm.
Dell was going to say something. What were you going to say, Dell?
Yes, no, this actually goes into what we were saying, and then just what Augie is saying there is that I'm wondering why this push is for people to jump into the metaverse, to get in there and to plug into this fake reality. Where, and I can understand this. We have a lockdown that's happening again here in Ontario, and people are being isolated again. Isolation was the worst thing that was happening beforehand, where people were feeling depressed and sick, and there was suicides happening. Now you have this Paris Hilton that's like, hey, spending New Year's Eve in the metaverse. Come and join me. Come and party with me. fake reality. You're giving your energy away to some other vehicle that's out there, and you're in a make-believe world that you think is better as you waste away inside in the real reality.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, even though that, yeah, okay, so you're going to end up with a lockdown. At least that's what they're telling you for a little bit.
Mhm.
But even during that time, you don't have to be isolated.
Oh no.
Connect with people in the world
Mhm.
through the internet. They could lock me in to this room for the next year. I would never be alone because I have people like you guys and the rest of the people that I'm
Mhm.
friends with in different parts of the world.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time on my phone talking to people
Yeah.
in many different countries. There are
Yeah.
days when I spend talking 3 different languages from different parts of the world.
Mhm.
And I enjoy that. That's why I could call them on the messenger and stuff.
Mhm.
No, I prefer the phone because
Mhm.
I have control of that a little different and it's a little more personal somehow. And I like the phone.
Mhm.
So you can, if you, even if you're locked in your room somewhere, to stay there, you have the whole world open to you to
That's what I
associate.
always say, the whole world at your feet. I do want to do a shout out to people in the chat here. We've got Luis Carlos that said, "Hey, Sean," because we had Sean. He's been kind of quiet, but we had Sean from, sorry, Sean, I'm going back, Chasing the Truth. And then we've got Luis Carlos. He said, "Everyone looks so tired." I'm not tired. Are you tired? Well, Del might be worked all day. How about you, Augie?
I couldn't hear the last part of that
I said,
segment.
"Are you tired?" The Luis Carlos in the chat says you guys look so tired. I'm
No,
not
no,
tired.
I've been on the
He's
I've been
been
on the
busy.
computer since like 8 o'clock this morning. So I've been 11, 13
Oh,
hours now.
wow.
So,
Wow.
mhm.
And then he says, "Oh, you guys from Canada." We're from Canada. Augie is from Arizona, and we're broadcasting to you from New Orleans. And Dave Petrella says, "Hi, everyone. The metaverse is the artificial golden age because that's what the age of Aquarius is." And then Carlos says, "I'm here too." Sorry, or Luis Carlos, sorry. And then Dave added, "The real golden age is on the opposite side from Aquarius in the age of Leo." And Luis Carlos also added, "Yes, long day at work. It's good to hear you folks. I'm glad I found you." We've got somebody else posting in a language I'm not quite sure what it is, but welcome everybody. Please join in the conversation. So, what's your thoughts about that? Dave's an astrologer, and I don't think I've really heard about the age of Leo. I don't know, you guys. Have you heard anything about this being the false golden age?
Well,
I
I know
don't.
with the Egyptians there, that was the whole part with the Sphinx there that was pointing towards Leo constellation, and that's maybe what he's maybe talking about there. And yeah, well, who knows what's good? There's this whole wheel about the Golden Age, Silver, and Bronze Age that goes around. I guess you would say the wheel of whatever I think whatever 36,000 years or 46. I can't even remember right now.
I am
And I am
going
a little bit
to
tired, so like I worked all day, and then she woke me up just before we came on
I
here
am
earlier.
going
So
to
I'm
stop this for a sec because there are people that are going to need help here in Canada. I just got a message. I'm going to read it to you guys. Um, this is from Quebec. Um, SHIT is about to hit the fan. The fan army is in Quebec. They want to take their children into camps. I guess those that aren't jabbed. It says soldiers have leaked documents to say they will isolate kids from their families if they have the CV, and they've asked for God help us all and to pray for them. So that just came through, and that's why I'm sharing it on here because this person lives there. I know them well, and we're talking about trying to focus on what we want. Now, when you're in a place of fear like that, I don't know what you can say, Augie.
It's almost like Gestapo, like stuff that would happen in history back beforehand, and
Mm-hmm.
history is going to be repeating itself again.
Mm-hmm. So I don't
Yeah,
know how we can help.
yeah, they as long as they get away with it, they'll keep doing it. But what we need to do, we keep doing it too. Know what we want.
Mm-hmm.
If we want our future to change, we have to know what we want it to change to.
And be
And then
clear
we
about it.
put a bow on that and put mental, wonderful, colorful mental images with it. We fill it with emotion for already having it and having the benefits of it. We have to develop that feeling. That's how we communicate with the universal mind. And then fill it with love for everybody around you enjoying the benefits of what you want.
Hmm.
There's got to be for more than three people. That's something in universal law about that. Don't just want something for yourself.
Okay, so
For
who's
more
the three?
people.
So if you say three people, now that's something new I've heard. So not just for yourself, you want it for other people too as well.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then when you have figured out what you want, you put pictures with it, you put detail in it, you put emotion into it, you put gratitude for already having it, and then you place that in the future
Hmm.
at a time coded event. Forget the calendar, it means nothing to the universe. That's man made. A time
Okay.
coded event like a birthday party or a reincarnation party is fine. And, and then or a New Year's party or something like that, where you're all standing around, visualize yourself toasting to the success of what you have wanted to have happen.
Hmm.
And then every day you go back and forth, visit that thing, put more details into it, get take one section today and develop that total picture of it. Another section of it tomorrow, third, just develop the whole thing so you have a clear picture of how it would look like, feel like, and how everybody will enjoy it.
Hmm.
Now you develop, when you go back and forth to it like that, you lay down attractor strings with little white threads outside of the physical that you can't see.
Hmm.
But those strings pull you up this timeline to that thing in the future. And as long as you keep doing what you can do in order to help it happen, things will happen to help you. People will come into your life that can help you
That's true.
realize it. They'll drop out of the sky just about to be able to help you. And you will be drawn up the timeline. So when your New Year's party come, you walk into it.
Well, actually, I had this conversation with Dell recently because we're looking for a new vehicle. And I said probably in February, end of January, beginning of February. And I said to him, one person it works with, but two is even more powerful. But we got to be very clear about what we want to manifest, what it looks like, what we're looking for. And like you said, you've given some other pieces of the puzzle there. Visuals,
Hmm.
very important, helps a lot, and a time coded event.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That sounds very similar to what that book, the Celestine Prophecies, that I read a bunch of years ago. There with manifesting future events and stuff like that, and
That's right.
putting the energy out there, and things will drop in there. But you have to be aware of what's around you. If you're very narrow-minded and not thinking, your eyes don't see and you don't feel that energy come in that direct you down the proper path that you were headed towards.
Yeah.
Okay, we got an interesting comment here. Hi, Stuart Hallett. Thanks for joining us. Now, I haven't heard anything about this, but he says there was a large humanoid figure by the moon in India. We don't normally have these breaking, interesting news comments here, but I don't know. Did you guys hear anything about that?
No, but that sounds a little bit close to what that Project Bluebeam was about, putting out a huge figure. I think they were talking about putting Jesus to be up in the sky that would be around the earth, or some sort of religious figure, so that people would think that this was disclosure or some sort of second coming, right? Because that just sort of seems like a little bit of this magic trick. It's all magic that these government people are using there to deceive people.
Well, I want to ask Stuart, when did this happen, Stuart? We'll see what you post there. So, Aki, what are you doing? We got about 10 minutes, if that. What are you doing with the mastermind? What's going on with that? What do you got going on? I didn't get a chance to talk to you over the holidays. So, where are you guys going with things with your podcast and with the
Well,
mastermind and
we're having a lot of fun with the mastermind. We assembled a really powerful group of minds. And on Sundays, we get together and we visualize into existence amazing things sometimes. Just a small example was that about 2.5 weeks ago now, one of the members, he said, my wife is in the hospital with COVID in a really bad way.
Mm-hmm.
So we wrapped our mastermind around her, and for some reason I kind of spit out like she was going to be home the next day. Did we have
Mm-hmm.
a quick recovery?
Mm-hmm.
That evening he called and he said, my wife's home. She recovered so
Wow.
that the doctor said there's no need for us to keep you here anymore. So he sent her home.
Right.
Now she's back out driving cars and cooking dinner again. She's
I'm
fine.
sure most people know, but people that don't know what the mastermind is, can you refresh your memory for them,
Now,
Aage?
the definition of a mastermind is when two or more minds are united in harmony, they create a third mind,
Mm-hmm.
which is the potential mind power of the two or more of them multiplied by each other.
Mm-hmm.
So if 1,000 people get together to focus on one thing and the completion of one thing in colorful images and emotion and all the spiritual language involved, now 1,000 times 1,000, that means that you got the mind power of 1,000,000 minds, and that is
Mm-hmm.
powerful. That alters reality within the physical arena.
Mm-hmm.
And we do this every Sunday, and if somebody want to come and check it out and see how they can do some amazing things for themselves, then just send us an email to the mastermindconnection@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
The mastermindconnection@gmail.com. And I'll send you some information with a link, and you can come and check it out and participate. It's a video type of thing, but you don't have to go on video if you don't want to. So kind of a little bit of privacy, I guess, is okay too. But we have done some really incredible things for people that has gotten in trouble in different ways. One lady was supposed to be evicted 3 days
Mm-hmm.
after that we did the mastermind meeting. We did one, and the next day her brother called, and she hasn't talked to her brother for 2 or 3 years, but he called and he said, I ended up with this other house. Would you come and take care of it?
Oh,
No
wow.
way, really? Oh,
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome. Mm-hmm.
goofy things happen. It just fall out
Mm-hmm.
of trees for you sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And also, of course, Nori and I, we are doing the broadcast team Alpha Show,
Mm-hmm.
where we are doing, we got a lot of interesting guests this coming Tuesday, tomorrow. We're going to have a guy on from Canada that is going to talk about a mystery school that he has.
Oh, what's his name?
Yeah, I got it written down. I haven't even.
What, Del?
No,
Uh,
I didn't. I don't.
just can't think of it.
No, I just said this is yes. Unless I have it written down in front of me, I can't remember names. Period.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
That Del is like that. Yes, he is. So the only reason I can remember names, and I think I've said this with you on the show before, Aage, I know Del's heard it before, but when I was barely 8 years old, my father took my brother and I to this week-long seminar. It was put on, I think, by Og Mandino, one of his affiliates, and it was teaching you how to use your memory and memory
Yeah.
tricks and all kinds of stuff. Now, I loved it, soaked up every second of it, and it's developed almost into an eidetic memory at times, especially when I was in university. My brother had ADD and didn't get anything out of it. But the funny part was, one of our school age friends, because we weren't at school for the whole week, told everybody we went for brain surgery. So I guess in a way we did. But
Yeah.
it's important, right? Like we've talked about this when you've been on the show, that you can train your mind to become better at these things if that's what you wish to focus on.
And I would also, I wrote a book, Spiritual Science, Higher Conscious Thinking, and How to Access the Universal Consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
In there, I teach people how to use their mind in ways that you normally would think would be impossible. And go to Amazon, put my name in there, and the book will come up, and you can see all the subjects that is written
You've
about
got
it.
your second book, and I always forget. I just know it's about the billionaire mind, right?
Yeah.
What's the second title again? It's longer. Oh, he's gonna pull it out. He's gonna pull it
There
out.
you
He's
go.
got 2 books. Yeah, there we go. He's got 2 books out.
Okay.
Okay.
Spiritual Science, Higher Conscious Thinking, and How to Access the Universal Consciousness.
Okay, but what's the second book too? Because you've got 2 books.
That's Universal Success Principles and How Billionaires Think.
Yes, I knew it had billionaires, and I always
Yeah.
forget the names. But when you've been on the show for a full show, we have had so many people in the comments mention how it has changed their lives reading your books.
Yeah,
So.
and that's also what I'm telling people. If they read this book 3 times, make sure we talk.
Yeah.
But then you're ready for stage 2.
Stage 2. Yeah, I don't think I've ever told Del too. How many words do you read per minute, Aage? Because this is with the Zox training and stuff. How many words per minute do you read?
Yeah, and the stage 2, that is more like, that's when you start bending the laws of physics in order to get things done.
Yeah, but how many words per minute do you read?
I don't know. The Zox Pro training course the mind development course I was teaching for a year, some 25 years ago, we could fly through a book in about 3 to 5 minutes. And we absorb the information with 95% retention.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. But these are things that people think aren't possible. This is what I was talking about, just what you were trying to connect was, these are things that we are capable of and so much more, but we've never been led to believe it. We've been led to believe that things like materialism and what have you is more important, when realizing that I think that throughout all of this is about self-discovery, about learning to work with the universe, if you were, let the negative extraneous fall away. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
Well, I would just say there, one part there is that this is sort of interesting there, that I would say is that we've found, or we've seen many studies there, when there's brain injuries, that the brain actually makes new pathways. And if you can create those pathways without injuring yourself and doing this, I think this is really important, that people, they always gave us this lie that we only use 10% of our brain. And maybe that was just to stop everybody from thinking that's all they knew, and then not to go and learn more. And I always think learning is so important in life. You should be learning something new every day.
Yeah. And we're creating new neural pathways every day on the basis of what we think and what we do with our mind and my brain. So we should start thinking about positive things and things we want, and think on it all the time. Live in the future if you have to. Do what you need to do today and live in the future until it's all around you in your mind, and the universe will get in your path and help you complete it.
Well, anybody that oh, sorry, go ahead, Aage.
Now, this has been proven so many times.
Well, I was going to say that anybody that doesn't believe that, let's talk about the placebo effect for a minute.
Yep.
People that have been told, and it doesn't matter what disease process, it has been done over the eras of time, if you will. People being told that had incurable cancer, that we've got this new wonder drug we're going to give you, and it's going to cure you. And people actually believed it would work and have cured themselves, and they found out it's nothing but a placebo, a sugar pill, right? The power of the mind is incredible. Think about it when and again, when we're in fear, it's been proven that you don't have critical thinking, you don't have logic, you don't have all those things that you normally would have or be able to access. But the more that sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. I was just basically going to say
that'd be important right now during this pandemic time for people to start thinking positive, and to think that you're not going to be as sick as whatever that these media propagandists want to tell you to, because that's what they're trying to throw you, is negative fear energy, right? To get you scared, to be in this scared state of mind. Yeah.
That's our only weapon. If we can overcome the fear and realize, like I said, that we all have that power within ourselves,
Mhm.
that they've got nothing left. Michelle Pratt added, like with my orgonite, I say, because you don't believe in it, it still works. And that's true. Hmm. It
Yep.
really is. Well, you guys, we are almost out of time. Augie, I'm so glad. I'm so sorry. I tried everything. I kept trying to. Good thing Dell was here because the screen would have been black while I was trying to email you and stuff.
That's all
But
right.
where can people find you? Where can they watch your show tomorrow night?
Well,
And
we can you watch it on YouTube with the Broadcast Team Alpha. We will be there, and also at broadcastteamalpha.com. We'll be transmitting live there, and of course on my Facebook page will be
yeah,
under my name, and a bunch of other places, about 8 or 10 different platforms
okay,
out there, 3 TV stations and things. So, but
okay,
you'll find us. And of course, after the show, then we'll post it on my Facebook page and many other different places. So you can find it. It could be
okay.
interesting. And go to Broadcast Team Alpha and look in the shows. You're going to find something that's is going to make your hair stand up.
We still didn't even get to your regular site, Aage-Nost, and it's got all those pictures of, like, I share those 3 videos you and Nori did about strange things found on Mars, on the moon, and on Earth. You can't believe I have them saved on the front page of my phone because I share those with so many people when I tell them about those. It's crazy
Now,
stuff, you guys. Hmm.
those documentaries were fun to make because we find pictures of people walking on the
Yes,
moon without spacesuits.
yes,
NASA prints,
yeah.
NASA prints in people on Mars,
Hmm.
buildings on Mars,
Yep.
and a 3,000-mile long cigar-shaped ship floating on the outer ring
Hmm.
around Saturn.
Yeah. And you tell people where you got them from too. So
Mhm.
that's what I think makes it even more credible. Well, I know that I've known you for how many years. I know what you found is what you
Yep.
found. But for somebody, say, watching it that's never seen it, you're very honest with people about where you've gotten it. If people can get a copy for themselves, you tell them how in the documentaries. But he has got some crazy pictures on your personal website, right? Of things you have
Yep.
seen that's strange in the world. So check that out. Deli, where can they find you?
You can find me here on UPRN Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's the delicious recipe, and we talk about all this stuff. We throw everything in the pot, and then we see how it tastes at the end.
Yeah, you don't tell people what to think, you let them decide for themselves.
Hmm.
And I'm Lorilei Potvin. If you want to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me on facebook.com/the Angel Rock. Keep your eyes open because I am presently in the process of finally opening up my shop with all the resin pieces and be quite a few spiritual pieces in the way of crystal charging plates, pendulums, runes, you name it, even things like chessboards. So I'll update you guys more with that as time goes on. I have 2 groups on Facebook: Paranormal University for all things paranormal, and then the Angel Rocker Tribe for many of the things we talked about with Augie tonight here, as well as with Dell. And I'd love to have you guys join. I want to send you all so much love and light. And again, although we talked about kind of what happened this year as well as where we are at right now, if anything, please focus on exactly what Augie was talking about. I know I talk about it quite a bit about focusing on what we want to see, not what we don't. And I think he gave some really good practical advice here. So we will see you next Monday. I'm working on a guest for you guys. Not quite sure yet who. They fill up pretty quick, the spaces, but we've got some great guests coming for you too. So take care, and we will see you next Monday, everybody. Have a good one. Thanks for being here, Augie and Dell.
Live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.